When it comes to Rocket League, one aspect of the game I really appreciate is that Champions Field is a map entirely predicated on making esports canon within the game. Added to Rocket League with the second anniversary update on July 5th of 2017, Champions Field celebrates the pure competition found in Rocket League, and that synopsis has proven to be quite accurate. In every RLCS match, whether it's Game 5 or Game 7, the deciding game always ends on Champions Field, and it has become a beloved tradition among fans. Champions Field also contains banners to commemorate every RLCS World Championship winning roster, and they are integral to the prestige of the arena. However, these banners don't just display the winning team and their 3 starters, but also their substitutes. Except for that one. We'll talk about it later. This can be seen as weird because realistically, what is a substitute more than merely an insurance policy? In most instances, they are never used and never contribute to the team, nor are they even signed to the organization in question most of the time. Yet, they always receive various in-game titles and blue tags as if they were one of the starters. To many, it begs the question, do RLCS substitutes count as world champions? The answer is more nuanced than you're thinking, but let's go back in time a bit. When Champions Field was first added to the game in the summer of 2017, to that point there had only been 3 RLCS World Champions. iBuyPower Cosmic in Season 1, Flipside Tactics in Season 2, and Northern Gaming in RLCS Season 3. And they're an ideal place to start, as with all 3 of these champions, all 4 listed players did actually play during their respective seasons. Season 2 is very brief, as just for week 2 of League play, Jazer subbed in for Greasymeister and helped Flipside Tactics to a 3-1 win versus Precision Z and a 3-2 win versus Reunited. The community overwhelmingly does not consider Jazer to be a world champion, but equally does recognize that he did contribute more to Flipside's season than 95% of RLCS subs ever have with his 2 series wins. However, the seasons it's sandwiched by, number 1 and 3, were and are the cause for a lot of debate. For any of you youngins out there, iBuyPower in Season 1 played the entire regular season with Krenovi, Lachidio, and Gambit. But for reasons that are not relevant, if you know you know, iBuyPower sub Over0 had to step in and replace Gambit for the World Championship, which they would go on to win in miraculous fashion. Similarly, about a year later in RLCS Season 3, Northern Gaming's main roster was Remco, Devo, and Maestro. But with Maestro unable to play at the LAN finals, Turbopulsa subbed in and, well, Northern Gaming lifted the trophy. Now, no one has any issues recognizing Over0 or Turbopulsa as world champions. I mean, obviously, they literally won the LAN, of course they're world champions. But what about the players they replaced? Gambit and Maestro, should they count as world champions? Ignore whether they have the in-game titles or what the Champions Field banners say. As you'll see later, those only mean so much. But do they count? On one hand, they were the intended original starters that if everything went to plan, would have started and played at the World Championship. Them being subbed out in a sense was no different to Jazer subbing in for Greasy, just some different days. And they quite objectively contributed a large amount to their team's seasons as well. Plus, given the levels of Over0 and Turbo, it's fair to assume that similar results could have taken place with Gambit and Maestro. Yes, Maestro was genuinely on that level in Season 3. I will stand by the fact they would have won that LAN with him. On the other hand, they didn't play the LAN. They didn't play the World Championship. And can you be considered a World Champion without playing at the World Championship? Can you be considered a World Champion if you aren't one of the 3 players winning on the stage? For some, it is as simple as that. But for others, not so much. That's why I can make a video on this. Personally, I recognize Gambit and Maestro as world champions, but not LAN winners. It's a weird distinction, but to me, they were the primary third throughout the entire season, just temporarily not for the final event. In terms of future precedents, it doesn't worry me. The fact that 2 of Rocket League's first 3 world champions had the same situation happen twice within a year is exceedingly rare, and it shouldn't change people's standards. On to the rest of the league play era. RLCS seasons 4 to 8, and well, there generally isn't much debate here. Dogu didn't play for Gale Force Esports, Replex didn't play for Dignitas, Sad Jr. didn't play for Cloud9, Nexo didn't play for Renault Vitality, and Moses did not play for NRG, although we all wish he did. These 5 players set the standard for subs in the RLCS, being that of a safety net only to be used in an emergency, who otherwise do very little to contribute to their team. The community overwhelmingly does not consider these 5 players to be world champions, irrespective of whether their in-game titles or Champions Field banner status is at all warranted even. However, there is a subset of fans who subscribe to the real sports mentality, that the entire squad, from starting players, substitutes and reserves, all get a medal and all count as champions, and if it's true there, the same is applicable to Rocket League. That being said, I personally think that logic falls short when most of these players weren't even signed to their respective organization they were subbing for. That is a distinction many fans struggle to make. Most RLCS substitutes do not sign a contract with the organization of the team they are subbing for. The only one here was Nexo for Team Vitality because of GT Elite Series. There is also the conundrum of RLCS Season 7 and Season 8 being the first world champions to have coaches. And while how official they were in the eyes of Psionics back then is murky waters, if anything, the community would advocate for Regan and Sizz to be on the banners in-game as opposed to Nexo and Moses. On to the most controversial, is he or is he not a world champion? Mark by 8. RLCS 21-22 was the first season with a world championship to take place in a season where mid-season roster changes were allowed. Before, during the league play era, because the seasons were so much shorter, you submitted your roster and it was locked. There were no mid-season roster changes allowed. That is obviously not the case anymore, and like clockwork, after making a roster change mid-season, Team BDS won the 2022 Rocket League World Championship, enshrining Monkey Moon, Extra and Seiko into immortality. But what about Mark by 8? This was and probably is still a very hot topic of debate. Using the criteria for Gambit and Maestro earlier, the cases for him being counted are that he played and contributed to a majority of the season, which could be objectively quantified in the points total. Hell, BDS literally won along with Mark, and generally he was absolutely pivotal to BDS's rise as a superpower within RL Esports. Plus, he was still on the organization at the time of BDS's win, still under contract with the Swiss organization. On the flip side, not playing the actual World Championship is an obvious knock against him, as is the fact he wasn't just temporarily subbed out. He actively got dropped from the starting roster for Seiko, and became the 4th player that from that point onwards contributed nothing to the team like so many subs in the past, even if still under a BDS contract. It's a tricky one, the first this community had to navigate given the advent of the new open circuit allowing for mid-season roster changes. In a poll I conducted over a year ago, 54% of respondents considered Mark by 8 to be a world champion, while the other 46% did not. But perhaps a new poll would yield different results 1 year after the fact. My question with all of this is, where is this energy for Saizen? Alpha 54, Radisson and Zen just won the 2023 Rocket League World Championship, but Saizen, like Mark, also played 2/3 of the season and was crucial to Vitality's overall good level during the season before Zen's arrival. Sure, there were no LAN or regional wins. Vitality did somehow manage to earn almost double the points in Spring Split versus Fall and Winter combined, but they wouldn't have automatically been the world's main event off Spring Split alone. I honestly find the contrast in reactions to Mark and Saizen fascinating, and personally, I'm inclined to believe that the reaction to Mark was very emotional, and thus has clouded people's judgment on whether he is considered a world champion. No beating around the bush. His benching was very harsh, and the fact he was stuck on BDS only rubbed salt in the wound. Throw in the fact BDS had already been disliked merely for being a good European team, and this was a pivotal point in the growing negative sentiment surrounding them. Thus, supporting and lifting up Mark by 8 became a way to rally around that, and no better way to validate him and all his hard work than to claim him as a world champion as well. It would also explain why there is little to no passion about arguing for Saizen as a world champion, because frankly, the community collectively and gleefully counted down the days and waiting for him to get dropped in favor of Zen, who at that point was already one of the best players in the world. Vitality literally made a regional final in the winter split, along with top 8 at the major, yet people couldn't help but gush over just how much better they were going to be with Zen. So while there's definitely a lot of sympathy towards the young Frenchman's way, the poor guy isn't even on the Champions Field banner despite being the 4th player for Vitality. It was considerably overshadowed by the Zen hype. Regardless, if you say one of Mark or Saizen is a world champion, you must say the other is as well. To differ on either player is hypocritical as far as I'm concerned. To me, both Mark Baye and Saizen are not world champions. I see a difference in Gambit and Maestro being subbed out temporarily versus Mark Baye and Saizen being actively dropped from their starting rosters. There is also a great flaw that I feel will inevitably invalidate future players from this discussion, and ideally would have already disqualified Mark Baye and Saizen. That being that the drop players in question can't join another team. Mark Baye was rumoured to Guild Esports upon his mention, Saizen similarly to Oxygen Esports. Neither move panned out, but imagine they did. Could you really say Mark Baye counts as a world champion when the team he actively plays for finished 13th in Europe? Yes, this is a hypothetical, but this is what I'm sure Mark or any player would rather have than not playing for an entire split. The same is true for Saizen. His rumoured team literally played at the exact same world championship that Vitality won. I ultimately feel you have to jump through way too many loops to justify Mark and Saizen as world champions. Yes, they objectively contributed to that team's journey to the World Championship, but that logic could be extended to former players. Someone like Clayx helping Medius promote to the RLCS to begin with. And then as I said earlier, you have those who only count the 3 players winning on stage as World Champions. But then you also have those who count the players, the subs, the coaches, the managers, the reserves, the staff, the whole 9 yards. It's a bunch of semantics at the end of the day. But that's the fun of these debates, isn't it? Regardless, below I've left a poll where you can take every substitute you consider to be a world champion. Get a discussion going in the comment section. I'm really curious to hear everyone's thoughts on this because there's clearly no consensus on this. If you've enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe. It's generic cringe YouTuber talk, but it's free, and I'd really appreciate it because if you've enjoyed this video, you'll probably appreciate all my other videos and may want to see them. Now with that being said, until the next time, peace.